There is a there is a poem of Aurobindo, the Triumph Song of Trishanku. We know the story of Trishanku and how he was all the time hanging between earth and heaven. He is one of the first mortals who wanted to achieve immortality while still being in the body. So it's a very interesting tale, and he wanted to be one with the immortals but without shedding the earthly coils. And every time he would go up, he would be turned back, and again by the tapas of Vishwamitra, he would be sent up, and again the gates of heaven will be closed and he is turned back. A point of time came when Vishwamitra, with all the power of his tapas, perhaps that's why he is called Vishwamitra, he is the friend of all, he created an annex, a kind of a substitute heaven or a parallel heaven for him to dwell. Such was the power of tapasya. This story is often narrated in a humorous way, as if it was a kind of a failed attempt. In a sense it is, but it takes many such failed attempts to realize what we call later on as success. Da Vinci dreamed of flying, and many people tried it foolishly, we may say, or who knows, they were the wise ones, because somebody had to blunder and do the follies for us to enter into the jet age today. Aurobindo takes that truth out of this story and puts it forward, that though Trishanku does not succeed in his attempt, yet he strives. And what is the truth behind the striving? It's a little longer poem, about a page and a half, but we'll just a few lines which come to the mind. Are the first seeds were sown upon earth, I was already old. And when now unborn stars grow cold, my history proceeds. This is the consciousness in which he lives, in which we all can rise. Or when the first seeds were sown upon earth, I was already old. And when now unborn stars grow cold, my history proceeds. I am the tree standing out against the infinite blue and the quiet falling of the dew, and am the unmeasured sea. I am the light in the stars, the strength of the lions, the joy of mornings. I am man and maid and boy, protean, infinite. This is the fundamental Vedantic realization, which is at the backbone to which we all must ascend and to which Savitri constantly beckons us. When Aurobindo spoke about the new world and the supramental world and the coming of the new race, he was very evidently not speculating, not philosophizing, not intellectualizing. It was not based on any appearances. In fact, if we go by appearances, perhaps that was the period when the world was at its darkest pitch. Of course, we have a tendency to realize, to feel that no, today is the darkest. But can we imagine the phenomena of a Hitler killing tens of thousands of people in one day? I think even the worst dictators of today would be left behind, even combined all of them. They would compete with each other and yet not touch a little of the brutality and the cruelty that this man had unleashed, or this demon man had unleashed. And yet, that is the time when Aurobindo was engaged in completing Savitri. And we, his children, get so disheartened by just a little bit of ups and downs in the share market and the election results. Look at the vastness in which he lived. The time of the first great war. What forces must have been unleashed upon earth. And not only the war, that was a time when science, psychology, physics, everything was denying the presence of divine. And at that point of time, Aurobindo declares in Savitri, this earth is not a brute mechanic accident. This world is not built by random bricks of chance. Alive in a dead, rotating universe, we whirl not here upon a casual globe, a divine intervention thrones above. And then he goes on to say that what kind of intervention is this? One who has shaped this world is ever its Lord. Our errors are his steps upon the way. We are so much moved by people's mistakes and past judgments. And here is the Lord telling us, our errors are his steps upon the way. He works through the fierce vicissitudes of our lives. He works through the hard breath of battle and toil. He works through our suffering and our sins and our tears. Whatever the appearances, we must bear. This is the law for man. Whatever the appearances, we must bear. Whatever our strong ills and present fate, when nothing we can do but drift and bail, a mighty guidance leads us still through all. Is it philosophy? It's so evidently the fact of a concrete realization. He saw the divine everywhere. He saw that power at work in the random game. He saw it bursting out through flower and stars and working behind man and woman and beast and plants. He saw it asleep in the clod, in the lump of clay. And as the mother would tell us, he saw it climb through the tree in aspiration towards the sun. This is the realization, the revelation we find constantly throughout in Savitri. What kind of a path is this? If at all one has to say, one would say it is the path of the infinite, the universal path. That's why it has no methods and all methods. If the divine is potentially in everything, everywhere, then actually everything and anywhere can become a means to come in contact with him. That is the fundamental logic of this yoga. We don't have to necessarily sit and follow a particular technique. If the divine is there in everything, if he is there in a flower, we can come in contact with him through that. If he is the one who is there in the battlefield, driving the chariot, giving a clarion call, striking in the spears, then in the heart of the battle we can realize him. If he is there in man and woman, then in all our relationships and through each one of them, we can realize the divine. Provided we have that thirst. Mother uses the word, if you have a thirst. In fact, she broke all rules and norms of yoga. All rules and norms. And released a much mightier something into this earth. So she would say, when somebody asked about the path, she said, all that I want is do not cling and have the thirst. And then she goes on to say, if you have this thirst, even the extravagances of the American youth are a path. somebody just moving around on motorcycle and doesn't know he's, just visiting this or that place, but has a thirst inside, is seeking. And one should read, there is a beautiful letter written by Ellen Montgomery, who was well-known fashion designer in New York. And she writes to Sri Aurobindo that I am in the midst of all this, what people call as success. She has arrived at fame, riches, everything. But something in me yearns. And I know, she came to read Sri Aurobindo's books. And she was so deeply touched and writes a most touching letter. One could see the psychic pouring out. If one reads that letter, one would have tears in the eyes. Sri Aurobindo's reply comes later. In fact, it is to her that Sri Aurobindo wrote one of the well-known replies which we find in Letters on Yoga. This ashram is a laboratory. That famous letter he writes in, because she wanted to come to the ashram. And then it's a long letter where he describes the basis of her experience. She wonders that I'm in the midst of all this. How can I experience the divine? She questions herself. She says, I am right in the middle of the fashion world. She was a fashion designer, not a sannyasi. Very far from it. Sannyasi shun clothes, and here she was, draping people in the most fascinating of clothes, which would charm and attract. She made mother's kitty cap famous because she liked it very much. And she had a realization which Sri Aurobindo confirms that yes, it was a psychic realization. She's sitting all the way in New York. She's not come and seen Sri Aurobindo. She's not had his darshan. And yet she has it. And she writes, how can I have it? And Sri Aurobindo tells her how you can have it and why you had it. In fact, the moment when she had the experience, I can't discuss this right here, but it's amazing. Something which one would never imagine, that somebody could have a psychic realization in that state of consciousness. And the master confirms it. Why? There's no philosophy. This is a truth that the divine is everywhere. And if he is everywhere, active, dynamic, pouring himself out through all things, trying to express, building a form, then destroying that form, building a new form for his abode. Have we not heard Ishavasyam idam sarvam yat kincha jagatyam jagat? Why do we confine him to a mountain top? He is there, of course, but he is everywhere. That is what we find in Savitri, that all through each line, when Sri Aurobindo describes the kingdoms of the little life, he reveals how the divine works in that kingdom. One would wonder why such a thing, crawl, has been created. Why should he create creatures like insects? And he would tell us that even inside the insect, O thou who disdainest not the worm to be, not even the clod, therefore we know by that humility that thou art God. He does not, because that is where his first strivings begin. When he speaks about the kingdoms of the little mind, schoolmaster's mind, cabined within a narrow idea, cannot think this way, that way. We would give up such a person. This person, there is no point talking to him about divine or about vastness, about infinite. Sri Aurobindo will describe all that with perfection, with each detail. At the end of it, what he will reveal? He will tell us, here too he dwells. Here too he climbs through that little idea to break into his own infinity. So much so that plunging into the heart of horror and darkness, he would tell us what lies there. We can just read a little bit of that, what lies in the heart of that horror. And we have 2 full cantos devoted to that. The Descent into Night and the World of Falsehood, where everything that we see in the world, in politics, business, all around and within is there, but much, much more and many more things which we don't yet find is there. He has seen all this. That's why he could, when yesterday we were talking about that letter where Sri Aurobindo says, even if the world were smashed, I would look beyond the smash to the new creation. So we are on page 231. He goes through all those darkest phases. In his poem, A God's Labor, he speaks about it. A voice cried, "Go where none has gone, dig deeper, deeper yet, till thou reach the grim foundation stone and knock at the keyless gate." I saw that a falsehood was planted deep at the very root of things, where a dragon murmurs roar above the grey sphinx. So he has seen that place where falsehood is planted deep. And having seen and gone through, it's described in great detail in these two cantos. What does he find? Page 231, somewhere in the middle. He felt the sealed sense of the insensible world. Look, this is such a beautiful Vedanta in its deepest sense, in its truest sense. Not Vedanta that he is there and this is all a world of false, this is nothing. Illusion. And it's so easy to, travel in jet aircraft and go to Singapore and say that it's all an illusion. It sounds a paradox. But man is so accustomed to live in paradoxes. If it's an illusion, then whom are you trying to say that it's an illusion? Illusion speaking to another illusion? It's an absurdity in its own right. A logical absurdity that me, an illusion, would try to convince another that thou art an illusion, and therefore leave that which is actually an illusion. But we have been living with that kind of an absurdity, and we feel very happy when we hear this word. Jagat to maya hai, mithya hai. We want to hear that from Aurobindo because it's very pleasing to the heart. In one go, it cuts the problem and the pain, and we are very happy to hear all this when everything is very fine with us. But the day a pin pricks, the illusion collapses and there is pain. So, Sri Buddha would tell us, this play is real. There is a purpose in her whims, in the great mother whims. And here he is telling us, what is that sealed sense? He felt the sealed sense of the insensible world and a mute wisdom in the unknowing night. We see again, he tears the mask of night and sees who is there but he. Into the abysmal secrecy he came, where darkness peers from her mattress, grey and nude. Darkness is not clothed in nice words. We clothe it in very nice words and very fine external actions. But inside there is darkness and falsehood. Here he is seeing the very heart of the horror. Darkness peers from its mattress, grey and nude, and stood on the last locked subconscious floor, where being slept unconscious of its thoughts, and built the world not knowing what it built. There waiting its hour the record, there waiting its hour the future lay unknown. There is the record of the vanished stars. There in the slumber of the cosmic will, he saw the secret key of nature's change. So Sri Aurobindo has not only seen there what is written beyond the stars, he has seen the same script is written in the heart of night. They are same script. Only there it is self-revealed. Here it is concealed. There it is self-known, self-manifest, ever manifest. Here it's waiting for its hour to manifest and slowly, slowly releasing itself. There is the record of the vanished stars. There in the slumber of the cosmic will, he saw the secret key of nature's change. A light was with him, an invisible hand was laid upon the error and the pain. till it became a quivering ecstasy. He has done the experiment. He is not saying pain is an illusion. He is saying pain is a deformation. It can be changed into its original vibration of Ananda. So when Sri Aurobindo was in his room when his leg got fractured, he was not saying that, what is there? After all, there is no leg, there is no bone, there is no fracture, it's all an illusion. Someone asked him, what was your state? What were you doing, sir? He says, I was transforming physical pain into Ananda. Because that's its origin. What a divine alchemy and what a great project he's inviting us to. The shock of sweetness of an arm's embrace. In the thick of night, helpless, alone, when there is nothing and nobody, to feel the embrace of the divine beloved. Many have felt him going up and merged into him in ecstasy and rapture. That is a truth. But there is another truth, to go into the heart of the night, into its very core, and find whom? There sleeps Virat, King of Kings. And by his sleep he built the stars. Sri Aurobindo would much later tell us. He saw in night the eternal's shadowy veil, knew death for a cellar of the house of life. Here we think life is a small room in the house of death. This is what we have said. This world is built by death. Life is only like a soap bubble. Let it collapse and escape from it into some nirvana. And we, oh, what a philosophy. Because it sounds so much real to our eyes and senses. But what is true to the soul's vision? He saw, knew death for a cellar of the house of life. Death is at the service of life. In destruction felt creation's hasty pace. If Sati would not have consumed herself in the great fire, would we have Parvati, Uma Hemvati, the great mother? She throws herself into fire. The divine creates and he destroys his own creation so that a new creation can arise out of it. In destruction felt creation's hasty pace, knew loss as the prize of a celestial gain, and hell as a shortcut to heaven's gates. This realization of the one infinite we find everywhere expressed in Sri Aurobindo, and it's so full of hope. Can it be of utility to us in practical life? There is something Sri Aurobindo writes as if which can be a kind of meditation. Whenever we are besieged with difficulties, how this can be so intensely practical. We may not experience that all the time, but what to do when we are surrounded with all kinds of things which compress us, narrow us, besieged us, we are full of, see nothing but darkness. When everything is in doubt, Mother says, make yourself vast. And she says, conceive of boundless space, endless time. And here is a meditation of Sri Aurobindo. Of course, he has not used the word a technique of meditation, but it flows in Ishavasya Upanishad. He has written it in the form of a dialogue between a student and the Guru. So he says, the Guru says, there is no difficulty once you have the key. He's giving us the key. The same key we found here, the key of nature's change. What is that key we must have if we want to awaken to that new light and that new truth? That key the intellect doesn't have. But there is a key we need. So what is that key he is giving us? Once you have the key, there is no difficulty. You can always use it to unlock a door and enter into that. What is that key? Lift your eyes towards the sun. He is there in that wonderful heart of life, and light and splendor. Watch at night the innumerable constellations, glittering like so many solemn watchfires of the eternal, in the limitless silence, which is no void, but throbs with the presence of a single calm and tremendous existence. See there Orion with his sword and belt shining, as he shone to the Aryan fathers 10,000 years ago at the beginning of the Aryan era. Sirius in his splendor, Lyra sailing billions of miles away in the ocean of space. He's asking us to conceive of that boundlessness. Mother, in a very small note, when she speaks about how to conquer suffering, she says, "O thou who suffers, do not lose hope." And then she says, look at that moment when this world burst forth and millions of sparks of light were lost in darkness. What could be more tragic moment than that? And yet today they shine as stars, pointing us the way in the night. They become these stars in our life. Every point of suffering is like a star, a guiding star, which helps us to point in one direction or the other. So he is telling us, remember that these innumerable worlds, most of them mightier than our own, are whirling with indescribable speed at the beck of that Ancient of Days, whither none but He knoweth. And yet, that they are a million times more ancient than your Himalaya, more steady than the roots of your hills, and shall so remain until He at His will shakes them off like withered leaves from the eternal tree of the universe. Imagine the endlessness of time, realize the boundlessness of space, and then remember that when these worlds were not, He was. This is the source of hope. Not a theoretical conceptualization that look at the appearances, what may happen tomorrow. Aurobindo has spoken about the new world. All these speculations have no meaning at all. Here is the fact of realization. And when these are not, He shall be still the same. Perceive that beyond Lyra He is, and far away in space where the stars of the Southern Cross cannot be seen, still He is there. How much we confine Him? He is only in a select few group of people, chosen few. He is there beyond Lyra. And then come back to the earth and realize who this He is. It's that vastness that assumes a limited shape, not limited shape that becomes into its vastness. Who this He is quite near to you. See yonder old man who passes near you crouching and bent with his stick. Do you realize that it is God who is passing? In the laughter of man, in the blush of a girl, in the strength of a man, in the beauty of woman, in the laughter of boy, in the blush of a girl, the hand that sent Jupiter spinning through heaven spends all its cunning to fashion a girl. Do you realize that it is God who is passing? There a child runs laughing in the sunlight. Can you hear him in that laughter? Nay, he is nearer still to you. He is in you. He is you. Goes on to say, not only He is in you, He is you. He has become this perishable substance. He has become this mud and water and clay that shall one day perish, and new things will arise out of it. For nothing perishes, but only changes its forms. It is yourself that burns yonder millions of miles away in the infinite reaches of space, that walks with confident steps on the tumbling billows of the ethereal sea. It is you who have set the stars in their places and woven the necklace of the suns, not with hands, but by that yoga, that silent, actionless, impersonal will which has set you here today, listening to yourself in me. Look up, O child of the ancient yoga. Is a book, Aurobindo Upanishad. That is how he addresses us. He says, Amritasya putra. We are children of immortality. Who has kept drummed into our heads that we are children of death? One day I shall perish, one day I shall perish. Enough of this. We are children of immortality. I rise from the pyre and the flames. This is how he would say in the triumph song of Trishanku. I rise from the grave and ascend to my home. It confines me not. Look up, O child of the ancient yoga, and be no longer a trembler and a doubter. This is the source of hope. Fear not, doubt not, grieve not. Why? You will ask, what is the logic? Because we are very logical people. Fear not, doubt not, grieve not, for in your apparent body is one who can create and destroy worlds with a breath. This is the secret that he reveals us at great length, behind everything, even behind the virion, behind the bacillus, behind dust, behind atom, behind quarks, behind electron. He shows us how there is the divine's abode. In fact, he reveals us something still greater. Not only is that impersonal will acting from above and behind, but sometimes that secret will puts on a human shape. That is the truth he is revealing us, a great truth. Rahasyoddattamam, a great secret which human mind cannot understand. Krishna tells Arjuna, don't tell this secret to everyone. I am telling you, everybody won't understand. They will look at me, they will say, like Duryodhana says, he is doing magic. I know he is doing magic. So Krishna shows that great form and reveals to him and tells him, Duryodhana, you think I am a great magician? Look and see. Like that great three visions of Washington, who had these three visions of the great Madonna coming and saying, oh son of the soil, look and see. The great grandsire of America. So Krishna says, Duryodhana, I am a magician from the Yadava family, look and see. It's beautifully documented in one of the poems by Hindi poet. And he says, तो मुझे बांधने आया है, जंजीर बड़ी क्या लाया है? You want to tie me in a rope? Have you got a rope big enough? ले देख पवन मुझ में लय है, ले देख अनल मुझ में लय है. You want to tie me? Look, the winds are held within me. The fires are nothing but my playthings. You want to tie me? Tie me with a chain. Bring a chain as big as that. वीरों से पटी हुई भू है, अब ढूंढ यहाँ किसमें तू है. Look within. I have slain all these creatures, including you. Can you find where is your dead body lying? Find, Duryodhan. then you tie me with the chains. That will takes a human shape, but not all would realize, because one would see only human figure. So when Aurobindo speaks of the birth of Savitri, the birth of our Divine Mother, and of course the birth of Aurobindo, the birth and childhood of the flame, page 353. We'll just read this. It's a very beautiful passage, and we are going from mother's birth to the birth of a new creation which he brings. So we'll just read this passage and then go for a break, because today we have to take a break on time. So we have to remember. Okay? So. In this high signal moment of the gods, answering earth's yearning and her cry for bliss. Whether men asked for her coming or not, we don't know. Perhaps some did. But earth went, we hear these stories in the Puranas. Earth went, cried, come down. Look what's happening to my heart. Earth is going through a massive heart attack. And she calls for an intervention. Answering earth's yearning and her cry for bliss. A greatness from our other countries came. Is silence in the noise of earthly things. Few lines below. A spirit of its celestial source aware, translating heaven into a human shape, descended into earth's imperfect mold, and wept not, fallen to mortality. We have heard a great mystic say, and he indeed was a great mystic, when everybody laughed, when I was born, I cried. But here it requires a hero's heart. In one of the lines of Savitri, Aurobindo says, a god come down and greater by the fall. A godhead greater by the human fate. That's why when gods are given the curse to become man, it's a boon. As we were saying, all the curses were boons. They must know what it is to become human, and there is a greatness. When mother asks for a boon, she says, for the mighty spirit of man. These are the words she uses. So here, and wept not, fallen to mortality, but looked on all with large and tranquil eyes. We'll go still down. Last 5-6 lines. For since upon this blind and whirling globe, earth plasm first quivered with the illumining mind, and life invaded the material sheath, afflicting in conscience with the need to feel. Since in infinity's silence woke a word, a mother wisdom works in nature's breast. Mother says in one of her sentences, my child, I am millions of years old and I am waiting. I have never left the earth since its inception. And we say, she was born, and we fix a date for her departure. A mother wisdom works in nature's breast to pour delight on the heart of toil and want. That is why, despite everything, because he is there, the world forgets to die. There is constantly the sense of joy, seeking for joy. And press perfection on life's tumbling powers, impose heaven's sentience on the obscure abyss, and make dumb matter conscious of its God. Although our fallen minds forget to climb, although our human stuff resists or breaks, she keeps her will that hopes to divinize clay. She is our hope, not human beings. Our minds will forget to climb. Our hearts will fail, but she keeps her will to divinize clay. Failure cannot repress, defeat overthrow. Time cannot weary her, nor the void subdue. The ages have not made her passionless. We will quote, but it has happened like this so many millions of years, nothing has changed. She will say, so I come with a greater force and a greater passion and a greater light. This is the anguish of the gods. No victory she admits of death or fate, and thus we should be, because we are her children. No victory she admits of death or fate. Always she drives the soul to new attempt. Always her magical infinitude forces to aspire the inert brute elements. As one who has all infinity to waste, she scatters the seed of the eternal strength on a half animate and crumbling mold, plants heaven's delight in the heart's passionate mire, pours Godhead's seekings into a bare beast frame, hides immortality in a mask of death. Once more, that will put on an earthly shape. Who is the mother? Aurobindo would tell us. She who plunged into this darkness at the beginning of creation to save it, to turn it towards the divine, to transmute it into an image of the divine. She is born here as Aditi, the golden flame, the Mother Divine. Once more that will put on a human shape. We'll resist the temptation to read right away, but after the break we'll come back.